All right, so welcome to Peak Speaks, the podcast of SFU's independent newspaper. It's been a good minute since we've done a podcast, and my name's Divya, and I'm the new multimedia editor and your host for today. Today's episode will be a little different because we're combining our Peak Spotlight segment. And just a refresher, the Peak Spotlight is a segment that Peak does to highlight clubs and societies around campus to bring to students the amazing things our community is doing. And so without further ado, today we'll be joined by Embark Sustainability. Yay! So let me welcome Allie White. And just so I don't do all the talking here, I'll let her introduce herself and tell us more about her.
Sure, thank you for having me. So my name is Allie, the current executive director for Embark Sustainability Society, which is a student-led not-for-profit organization, one of the 5 student societies on campus, another one being the Peak, that works to empower the next generation of sustainability changemakers through different programming, events, advocacy work, and a grant that we offer. So we always have a lot of events and activities going on, most of which are virtual now.
How's that going for you virtually?
It's actually going well. It was an interesting pivot in the spring. A lot of what we do is in person, so it was kind of, it was definitely a big thing to wrap our heads around, like how are we going to keep moving forward in a virtual space. But with the exception of a couple programs that kind of have to be in person, it's gone relatively smoothly. So, for example, our food rescue program and our learning gardens program, you kind of got to be there. So we ran food rescue in our learning gardens, which is like community gardens we have on campus, with COVID protocols. So, for example, in the garden, we had a small number of volunteers, and they were spread out. They each had their own plot. And our garden coordinator was providing some instruction and education on how to learn how to garden, grow their own food, and then they would harvest and take that food home for themselves. So that was done pretty safely. Obviously the garden's closed for the winter now. And then we had been running food rescue outside, which is a program where we take produce from Nestor's Market that can't be sold anymore. Either they have too much of it, they're starting to get like a little bit old, or has an imperfection for some reason. But it's still perfectly really good produce. And then we distribute that to students at no cost. Just have volunteers that set up a table, give it out. So we've been running that a little bit differently than we normally would, like put it in paper bags. We have obviously masks and a lot of sanitizer and distancing and all these things to make it really safe for folks. But as we've gone into winter again, it's like, okay, well, where can we distribute produce that's not going to make the volunteers hypothermic, get really cold or rained on, because one challenge is obviously SFU has got a lot of pretty strong COVID restrictions and not booking spaces. So it's been a little bit of a challenge mitigating running food rescue in a space that's visible and accessible and comfortable for volunteers, and supporting student food security. And all our goals with that program, but also, working with this new reality we're in. But other than that, we've been able to shift our content online. So we've done some garden workshops online. We're generating a lot more video content. One of our regular monthly programs was community kitchens, which is obviously in person traditionally, but we've been doing them over Zoom as kind of a cook along, and then we offer grocery store gift cards to students who are attending to try and ensure it's accessible for all, because normally we would have provided the groceries. So we do that every month. It's gone pretty well. We always invite collaborators to help facilitate, maybe share a recipe that they grew up making, maybe a little bit about the culture if they want. So we're doing that.
So sorry, just to interrupt. How would students join these sessions or get to know more about things?
I mean, we share everything that we're up to online. So we have a website, embarksustainability.org, and then we're on social. So I think it's at Embark Sustain on most channels, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. So any events like that are coming up, we will be posting and advertising through there. And
any student, like our grad students and undergrads and
so I should mention that earlier. So all students are members, or member funded organization. So all 35,000 or whoever exact amount there is right now are members. So everyone's able to access our programming for free.
Got it.
Yeah.
Cool. So how did this club start? That sounds like such a cool initiative, like sustainability. Like we need it, especially in this time. It's so prevalent. So how did it?
I think that's why it was started, is because it didn't. From my understanding, back in 2003, so I definitely wasn't at SFU at that time, there basically sustainability wasn't a priority. It wasn't really on anyone's agenda at SFU, from my understanding. So a group of students got together, formed this kind of sustainable campus coalition, and advocated toward their university to create, a sustainability advisory council and start getting sustainability embedded within the institution and start making it a priority, and have a department, have staff, like let's grow this work. And so once that initial goal was accomplished, the students kept organizing and became something that was called Sustainable SFU, which initially was more of a club and put on different events and did some advocacy work, but then later became a registered not-for-profit in 2009. And then the first referendum students passed in 2010, which allowed what was Embark. I want to say Embark, but it's Sustainable SFU at the time, to be financially supported, so they could start hiring some students to do work, start actually creating real programs that have cost, build their first community garden, start putting on events, and then rebranded to Embark in 2015, which is around the time that I first got involved with the organization as a student. And then like a couple of years later, maybe a year later, students passed another referendum to increase the levy by a little bit, just to increase the capacity of the organization. So be able to hire a lot more students, couple staff members, offer a larger grant. So one of our programs is offering a social innovation seed fund grant to student projects, so increasing that amount. We now have 3 gardens, soon to be 4. So yeah, that really increased our capacity to grow the work that we do. So it's really evolved from, I guess, what was a small group of passionate students that wanted to see change, to this actual functioning, non-for-profit staff and a student board of directors and all this, and a huge team of students that work on projects throughout the year. So it's really transitioned over the last almost 20 years.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Like I first heard about Embark this year. I just started getting involved at school. I've been at SFU since 2016, so I went to your website. It sounds like such a cool initiative, and for sure.
I think that's one of the things that has always been a challenge for us, is reaching all of our membership to let them know that A, we exist, and B, that we offer a lot of cool events and programs, and things like back in normal times you could go and fill a bag of free produce a couple times a week, and attend a community kitchen, attend a bunch of events, apply for different roles that we have. So I think that's always the challenge, is actually telling everyone that we exist. And I think part of that visibility was the fact that we have a location that was very visible or accessible to students. So unless you heard about us online or came across us doing a food rescue distribution, it was kind of hard to even hear about Embark. As much as we try and tag people online and do all those things to spread the word, it's out of sight, out of mind. So
for sure,
I think everyone being online has maybe helped support the growth of awareness of what we're doing. We've seen a spike in engagement for sure.
That's awesome.
And whenever we're back on campus, we will be in the new STEP building, so we'll be a lot more visible and accessible to folks, new students and existing students, to kind of learn about what we do and get involved.
That's awesome. So what's your favorite, since you said you joined in 2015, so what's been like your favorite moment being part of Embark and the team? If there,
moment.
Or top 3, if you can't.
I don't know if I can pick like one moment. I've been involved in a bunch of different capacities since then, and there was a year in there that I wasn't involved at all. So it's hard, just with different roles and different projects. I think just seeing, this is gonna maybe sound boring, but just seeing the growth in that time period. Like when I started, it was before the second referendum, and now I'm helping manage the organization and just seeing the transition and the adaptability of students. And it's always exciting and motivating to do the work that we do. And I'm not really answering your question. It's hard to pick a moment.
I know, I feel you.
There's so many rad people that have been involved with Embark that are still involved. So
I guess a sense of community then. Like
sure, I'll say it.
Sounds cool. So what do you hope like for students to get out of like being part of Embark? And
I think just to feel like empowered in their sustainability change making journey, whatever that means for them. At Embark, we have a more intersectional lens of sustainability. We're trying to integrate more social justice lens to all the work that we do. So in that
what does
sense,
that look like? What do you could you explain that more?
Like, rather than just a traditional sense of environmental sustainability, like starting to think about food sovereignty, climate justice, talking more about like whose land we're actually doing this work on, and whose voices we're elevating, and that sort of thing. So bringing more of a justice and advocacy lens is what we're focusing on. So I guess with that, I hope it would draw a wide range of students and different interests to sustainability when they might not traditionally see themselves as like sustainability people.
For sure.
And we also offer a lot of access points in the sense of commitment, I guess. So depending on how you'd want to be involved. So like I mentioned, we have a lot of events. So for example, we just had a virtual sustainability career night in partnership with a few different organizations. That was centered around equity. So you just show up to an event, you can show up to a community kitchen and just participate. You can volunteer. So we have, like I mentioned, we have food rescue volunteers, learning garden volunteers, and also some volunteers that are part of our online teams working to collaborate on projects. So got a climate action team. So if you want to actually start to get involved and contribute in that way, like there's various volunteer opportunities for students. And then we hire students each year to help, run, ideate the projects that we do. Mm-hmm. So we have a large team of coordinators. I think I should know exactly. I think it's 7 or 8 this year. So one that's leading our climate action team, one that's leading our food systems change area, our social sustainability coordinator. We have 2 YouTube coordinators that are working on our YouTube channel, which you'll probably be keen on watching at some point. And we have a media coordinator or digital engagement coordinator that supports with more of our like video content that we're doing right now. So Instagram lives and storytelling projects. And we also have a social innovation seed fund coordinator. So that grant program that I mentioned that helps coordinate that. So we hire a lot of students each year. So if you want to get involved in a more meaningful way, I guess, and get some actual work experience with Embark, we offer those opportunities. We can also be a board member, which is a good commitment as well, but really great experience for students. And then often I was a former student, so maybe one day you can be a staff member. So we always try and have various access points for students to get involved. Maybe you just want to follow us and don't even want to go to an event, but you just want to follow us, see what we're up to, maybe watch a few Instagram lives or some of the videos on our YouTube channel and start to get engaged in a really small way. Like, that's cool. So I think, just making students like feel like sustainability is accessible to them, whatever that means to them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think a lot of students, especially during this time, feel like they have to, can't really work on campus. Especially this year, I've really been open to all the different positions there are on campus. And I think a lot of students think that they have to volunteer their time, but you've really highlighted that they can actually be hired and there are jobs to be hired for at Embark, especially. That's pretty cool. So are there any, you mentioned events that are happening right now, but are there a current event that you really want to highlight or talk about, a coming event that's coming up that students can get involved in?
We just had a couple events. I'm just trying to think. We just had a community kitchen. We just had our career night. We have a few online things happening, which they could technically watch at any time because we always save our Instagram live. So we have an Ask Me Anything coming up. I think either today or tomorrow, which is an interview between our climate action coordinator and a SFU community member about something that they're working on. So this month is with a student named Manuki, who's one of the S+S board members, to talk about student activism. And in the past, we interviewed Tim Takaro, who's a professor at SFU, about his tree sit-in, which is part of the TMX pipeline protest.
I heard about that.
Yeah, so just finding stories, things that people are working on and amplifying those voices. Another storytelling project that our digital engagement coordinator, Mayhak, is working on is called I Am Embark. So just finding random students across the university. They don't have to be working on a particular initiative or project, but just kind of telling their sustainability story. But again, sustainability in a very holistic, ambiguous way, and what that means to them. So keep an eye out for more videos coming out with that. We are doing a garden workshop next week, which will be virtual as well. But like I said, it's not something it's not like a Zoom event where you have to be there at a certain time. You could technically watch at any time, but that'll be on sprouts, something you grow in a mason jar. So our garden workshops, we're trying to focus on things that you can do, from an apartment, either with a small balcony or no balcony at all, just a windowsill. Because we know that most students, generalizing, probably don't have a huge plot of land that they can grow food on, myself included. So just trying to keep it small and accessible and just minimal. So that's coming up next week. But yeah, we're kind of our larger events are wrapping for the semester, as we know that students are going to be going into exam and final project mode. But yeah, like I said, we just had a community kitchen and a career night, so those will be things we do again in the spring. So I guess if folks want to follow us at Embark Sustain, or check out our website, Embark Sustainability, they'll find out when the next ones are happening. And we'll keep you up to date on food rescue if we're able to keep running it. Because there are still a lot of students living on campus, living on the mountain, so trying to keep that going if we can.
Yeah, I think a lot of, especially international students, have come back and are living on campus. Awesome. So I think we've really gone through everything, or all the questions that I wanted to ask you. Do you have something you wanted to add about Embark, or something that I missed?
I think that's pretty much all. A couple things I could give shout outs about is our next Social Innovation Seed Fund deadline is November 25th, which I don't know when this video podcast will be released, but that's
definitely try to do it before that.
Okay, yeah.
Reminder.
So if you're working on a project that maybe has some sort of social environmental transformation in your community, we offer grants from $200 to $2,000 in conjunction with Radius at SFU. So More information and criteria and all that is on our website, Social Innovation Seed Fund. But yeah, so the next deadline is coming up. So if you're working on a project with some students or just by yourself this semester, like that's a great opportunity to apply and maybe get some funding to keep it going. The other thing I would just mention, if this is something that would be interesting to some folks, is that we'll be recruiting board members for our next cycle in January, February.
Okay.
So if
they need to have some kind of experiences or...
No, being a student is the experience, is your qualifications. I think if what I've been talking about sounds interesting to you and you are curious to know more about nonprofit governance, what it means to manage an organization like this, and work with a team of students on kind of the high level oversight. So things like reviewing our financial statements is what some people do with myself, strategic planning, like governance, like creating policy, ensuring that our relationships with students are positive and things like that. So it's a pretty great experience to be on a board as a student or at any age. So if that's something that piques your interest, then make sure to follow us and find out when those board positions are posted, probably in January. We'll potentially be recruiting for other volunteer positions that are less of a commitment in the spring, so keep an eye out for that. And come to an event.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much, Ali, for being with us today. And I know it's been a long time coming. I've been wanting to talk with Embark for a while now, but our schedules were just kind of hectic. So thanks for accommodating.
Thanks for thinking of us.
Thank you.